So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pirzadi Rumana Hussain, working as a scientist for climate change and aquatic food systems at the World Fish and Resilient Agri-Food Systems Group of Research Delivery and Impact Division of CGIAR. So I will be the host of today's session, and I'd like to welcome you all to this Gobeshona session on climate information services for resilient food systems in the Asian mega delta. You may all know that deltas are extremely vulnerable to climate change, variabilities, and extremes as well due to its geographical location and environmental setting. Therefore, deltaic food systems have been facing growing threats of large-scale interannual climate variability, like seasonal signature of extreme heat, heavy and mean precipitation changes, long-term climate phenomena like water temperature rise, ocean acidification, sea level rise, and salinization, as well as extreme weather events like floods, cyclones, and tidal surges. So these climate challenges risk food, nutrition, and livelihood security of millions. Hence, managing climate risks using data-driven, science-based, and context-specific climate information services are crucial to build the resilience capacity of range of food systems like agri-food, aquatic foods, livestock, poultry as a whole, and the value chain actors of each food system as well. Because building resilience through a system approach can lead the way our goal towards transformation to achieve sustainable development agenda by 2030. So considering the importance of climate risk management in Asian mega delta, particularly the Bengal Delta, this session is going to present and discuss recent research and development on climate information services conducted by different CGIAR centers and our partners. We have a number of distinguished research scientists and development partners as presenter and panelists here with us today. So we have presenters from CIMMYT, International Research Institute of Climate and Society, Jahangir University, and Solidaridad Network Asia. So we all together will be exploring how climate information services should look like for the coming days, and where we need to put our focus on to take the already ongoing activities forward. So first of all, I would like to start with a video abstract on building resilience through climate information services for aquaculture in Bangladesh. And this work was our pioneer initiative, I would say, on climate information services for aquatic food systems. And World Fish, CIMMYT, ICRISAT, and IRI from Columbia University, we jointly worked to develop a decision framework, particularly to manage temperature and rainfall variability-induced risks in day-to-day aquaculture operations. I think it's better to play this very short 3-minute video for your better understanding and setting the scene for our session today. Hope you will enjoy it. Showman, please. So thank you all for watching. As I said, this is what we started, and we all together have made a good progress to take this forward from different perspectives. For instance, value chain, social, economic, financial, and policy inclusion in the light of a system approach for climate risk management in Bengal Delta. So as part of this, we will now listen from Dr. Amjad Babu on climate information services requirements along the value chain of crops, livestock, fish, and also ways to accelerate digital climate information services for resilient food systems in the global south. Dr. Amjad is an agricultural economist working at International Maiden Wheat Improvement Center, particularly on sustainable agri-food systems program. So Amjad, finally, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Rumana, for setting the stage, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Here I'm trying to explain climate information services along the agriculture value chain in Global South. I have examples from Bangladesh. For a little background, for a little background, I want to say that this study, which I'm trying to present today, is a part of the CGR initiative on securing food systems of Asian mega deltas, or AMD in short. The goal of AMD is to promote resilient and inclusive and productive agri-food systems in Asian mega deltas. And the AMD initiative focuses on 3 main deltas, such as Ganges Brahmaputra Delta in Bangladesh and India, Irrawaddy Delta in Myanmar, and Mekong River Delta in Vietnam and Cambodia. So similar studies have been conducted in both the other deltas, Irrawaddy and Mekong. I'm trying to present what we have done in Ganges Brahmaputra Delta or in Bangladesh in general. So we have different work packages in this particular initiative, and one of the work packages on de-risking value chain is quite relevant here in the case of climate services, because the main objective is here to facilitate investment along the Delta value chain for digital climate advisory and complementary services. So one of the major outcome needs to be identifying inclusive intervention strategies and options for digital tools, platforms, and services with public and private sector. So this will provide what we call DCAS opportunity profiles. Reducing risk along these specific delta-oriented value chains by supporting co-development of inclusive digital products is another major aim here. We are actually trying to develop sustainable business models for those which we actually identified through the opportunity scan. So as a basis for this particular study, what we did was value chain assessment. So the methodology is like this. We have done it through key informant interviews and also for focus group discussions with all the actors or different actors along the value chain. So we have redrawn many of the value chains and identified climate risk and opportunities for climate services along the value chain. So I'll discuss a few of them with you right today. And the major information we collected was what are the key weather and climate risk and faced by each actor? What are the non-climatic issues like finance or other issues that are actually faced by this actor? And what is the timeline of weather and climate issues actually occurring? And what are the potential impacts? And what is their current adaptation measure? And are they accessing weather information to mitigate these issues? And what are the sources? So this is the main information we have collected, and we have developed it into a report, which is not yet released. I'll tell you when it will be released soon. So I'm showing you an example of the value chain diagrams we have developed in this study. You can see the legends here. One legend is actually the climate stress, like high temperature, cold wave, drought, heavy rainfall, cyclones, salinity, and also non-climatic issues like transportation, finance, mechanization, and so on. And other legend is about the various stages of the supply, value chain, like seed, grain supply, processing, exporting, wholesale, retail, and consumer. What you are seeing is rice value chain. I forgot to say that. So in case of rice, I'll tell you an example. In case of seeds, one of the issues we discussed was when there is heat stress during pollination or grain filling stage, it has major impacts on seed production. And when it is coming to the seed seller, what they have is, if there is drought, the long duration rice seeds will not be sold. So they have to, there is a demand for short duration rice varieties, and the long duration may not be sold, for example, 50% of stock. Then what happens is some of these untreated seeds are sold to outside market as grain. So that causes major losses to the seed sellers. So they actually require information at a seasonal scale on what to stock actually. So that's a potential opportunity. This can be built into business opportunities. That's what we are trying to do. As I explained to you, it's like a business can. And then if you come to the grain supply, various middlemen are facing different issues with, for example, rainfall. Some of the middlemen actually explained, if there is a rainfall and they were contracting a truck, they may have to wait until, if it is continuous rain for 3 days, they have to pay the full rent for 3 days, and that can affect total cost of transportation for these actors. So I'm not going to say everything here, but actually what we have done is identified different value chain actors and pathways, and we actually try to identify different climate stress so that we can think of co-creating business business-oriented climate services for rice value chain. So the next one, what we have done is about mung bean. So here you can see that one of the major issues in mung bean is heavy rainfall and related damages. That everybody knows, most of people are quite familiar with what happens at grain production level. But in case of processors, what happens to them is, if there is a heavy rainfall event, then the local production goes down, and suddenly there is a imbalance in supply and demand in the market, and the prices is getting up. So they are actually quite interested in reducing or offsetting weather-related damages, and we are actually trying to build a business model with an IVR system, which has been, CIMMYT has tested an IVR, interactive voice response system, for as a harvest warning service to mung bean farmers in the coastal Bangladesh, and we are actually trying to develop a business-to-business model with the processors on sustaining that particular service. So this kind of opportunities we can identify by looking at the holistic value chain and understanding what are the different kinds of stress and the opportunities to mitigate them. And this is about chilies. It is similar, but the dry chilies are getting affected if there is rainfall during the drying time. Otherwise, they are not much affected. But in case of green chili, the high rainfall can reduce the supply, and it can also cause increase in prices. So other kinds of stresses which I explained before also applicable to the chili value chain. All details are available in our report, which will be released soon. So I'm not going to for the details here. So this is watermelon chain. So in case of watermelon chain, what I want to say is about consumers. So in case of consumers, what happens is they will not buy if there is heavy rainfall or if there is a reduction in temperature. So that affects the demand for watermelon, and suddenly there could be a price fall, and that can actually lead to losses at retailer or roadside sellers level. And of course, there is so much of stress in the production side, but I just want to highlight there are other actors which are actually affected by the climate stresses. And this is a dairy value chain. I can give you an example here. So in case of dairy value chain, if there is a heavy rainfall, the percentage of fat goes down from 3.5%. And that's affecting the processing entrepreneurs, and they actually provide less prices for the milk produce. And but in the case of cold stress, the milk production goes low, but the fat content goes up. So it's interesting for processing entrepreneurs, but not for farmers because the total amount of milk is going down. So here also, I don't want to completely explain all the findings we have. So only those what is actually, just giving you highlights about what can be done by opportunity scanning along the value chains. I think this is about meat value chain. So in case of meat, I just want to tell about retailers or butchers. So what happens to butchers is if there is a heavy rainfall or cold time period, many times they are not selling their meat, and what happens is they are actually selling it to restaurants at a lower prices. So what they say is if there is a heavy rainfall which is continuous for a few days, they may have unsold meat, and then it is creating losses for them. So along the value chain here also, there are different stresses, and there is also non-market stresses bit here. And this is about aquaculture value chain. There are two presentations here. Already Rumana explained at least the farmer side. I'm not going to explain it again. But one of the challenges in developing climate services for aquaculture is we need to predict pond water temperatures. So you'll hear another presentation today on this topic. And also, the high level of losses due to different climate stresses. We have another presentation on that too. So in case of carbs, carb fattening will be, reduced if there is a drought, and there will be reduction in supply, so that can actually increase the prices and affect the other trading partners or along the value chain that can have a cascading effect on prices. And similarly, in case of prawn, we also looked at the whole value chain. So some of these farm level impacts are quite known, but collection of broods and affected by heavy rainfall or cyclones, and what happens, how it is affecting total production, it's not quite clear even now, but it is affecting. And it affects differently to semi-intensive to traditional practice farmers. So you have to do further analysis here, but what you have found is different. There are different categories of stress events happening at different parts of value chain. They all require information. And in case of aquaculture, not only information, but also investment in various offset measures is required. For example, if many times the heavy rainfall will cause overflowing of ponds, and the prawns can be washed away. But if the farmer invests in nets, and if there is warning that you please use your nets because there is heavy rainfall coming, he can actually practice such information and make financial benefit out of it. So this is about dry fish. It's a special value chain which we try to understand. So here the issue is if dry fish is getting wet in a large scale, then farmers or the fishers actually try to spray chemicals to prevent them from rotting, and it can actually affect the health. The quality of these products, and then it's a health hazard. So we can actually prevent these kind of issues. Not only the production, but also the quality can be improved. So we have to, in the report we have written much more detail on different opportunities along value chain in dry fish value chain. Yeah. So yeah, just I want to conclude here. It is what we have seen is there are so much of opportunity which are not identified along the value chain of most of the crops which are relevant in Bangladesh. It's the same true in Cambodia or in other countries. And here, creating appropriate services for these opportunities is another task. So this study offers the first set of intervention strategies. We are not saying that's full or complete study, but it's initial assessment, and it went quite well in our opinion. And yeah, these findings will be used as opportunity scan for development of inclusive digital products and services with public and private sector partners. I'm waiting for the reviews of national partners of this study, and then it will be released and you can find further information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amjad, for your insightful talk on focusing on the value chains of different food systems. So we will be taking the questions during the Q&A session. So dear audience, if you have any question to ask or any observation or advice to share, please share with us in the chat box. We will try to answer your questions or respond to your queries during the Q&A session. So at this point, I'd like to call upon Drew Resnick. Drew is working with Earth Institute of Columbia University, and he will be presenting on exploration of a model to simulate pond water temperature for aquaculture climate services. Amjad also mentioned the importance of water temperature for aquaculture climate services, and we have been working for quite long on this, that how to resolve these issues. So Drew took the lead to work on a model to test how we can provide water temperature forecast for climate information services. So he will be presenting on his model relevant works. So let's hear in detail from Drew based on his recent study. So Drew, please go ahead.
Hi, just sharing my screen. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Drew Resnick. I'm presenting today based off of the research that I've been doing at the IRI in conjunction with WorldFish. It's titled Exploration of a Model to Simulate Pond Water Temperature in Aquaculture Systems for Seasonal Climate Information Services, trying to build a generalizable model for simulating pond water temperature and exploring its application at different timescales, so at the weather timescale and seasonal timescale, as a tool for creating early warning systems. Specifically, this case study is looking at Bangladesh. The goal would be eventually to be able to create a model that is generalizable enough to be able to apply to different farming systems around the region. So some background about the project. As was said before, interannual climate variability in the Asian mega deltas has been posing a wide range of climate risks in the growing aquaculture systems of the region. So things like heat waves, cold spells, heavy rainfall, and dry spells all have been identified as key climatic phenomenon which can impact fish farming in the region. The research that we did focuses on adaptation, specifically to temperature variation in these aquaculture systems. We know water temperature variation is one of the key risks related to things such as disease outbreak, fish health, and loss and damage throughout the different stages of fish production. So the ability to forecast and predict these major extremes in heat and cold events is important for helping farmers to take early action and to manage associated risks. So in this study, we used a model which was previously published by Gao and Merrick. It's a mathematical model which simulates the energy fluxes into and out of ponds. And we use this to investigate the predictive ability of this specific type of mechanistic model and its ability for simulating the pond water temperature at both the daily and seasonal timescales at 2 locations in Bangladesh. The generalized equation used by the model is based on a fundamental heat energy balance equation. So it's basically modeling the different physical characteristics of a pond model. And it has also been previously used in studies, specifically in pond and different type of small lake and other small bodies of water systems, specifically in aquaculture. And we explored the model in 3 ways. The first stage of the research was exploration of the ability of the model to predict at the weather time scale. We then did an assessment of the model's sensitivity to hot and cold spells in a sensitivity analysis. And then the third stage of the research was then applying the model to a seasonal forecasting approach. Our approach was doing a terciles-based approach. And we did this to see how well the model could perform at a larger time scale. The study sites that we used in this research were in 2 different regions of Bangladesh. And this is where there was available pond water observed data. The 2 study sites that we used had different climatological characteristics, which made them good candidates for the research because we were able to see how different climatic variation might affect the model and its performance. The first study site is located within the Khulna division, where the average mean temperature is among the highest in the country, and the rainfall is closer to the average. The second study site is in Sylhet, and where the average mean temperature is among the lowest, but the precipitation is among the highest in the country. So the first stage of the research, exploring the predictive ability of the model at the daily timescale. You can see here for 2 different sites. For A, it's in Khulna, and B is for the results for Sylhet. The simulated water temperature overall closely resembled the observed water data, which suggests that overall the model did perform well at the daily timescale. But generally, the performance was better in Khulna than it was in Sylhet. The results of the Sylhet model show a deviation from the observed water temperature during part of the rainy season. You can see they're circled in red in the figure. There's a significant decrease in observed water temperature in those areas, whereas the model simulated data does not reflect this. The hypothesis for this difference is that the high level of rainfall in this region causes mixing of the pond water, which could influence the temperature, as well as possible flooding events and high rainfall that could further decrease the temperature of the water. So this is the results of the second stage of the research, the sensitivity analysis. You can see in each of the figures, there are spikes, both negative and positive, which are simulating heat spells or cooling events. And you can see that the model was highly sensitive to these spikes in temperature, which suggests that the model could be applied at the weather time scale for creating a warning system for heating or cooling events. This slightly busy slide is showing the results of the third stage of the research, which was exploring the forecasting at a seasonal timescale using the terciles-based approach. The results of the seasonal forecast show that the simulated water temperature was not sensitive to the large changes in probability at the seasonal timescale. You can see that in the hypothetical case used for this research, on the left-hand side of each figure where you see the air terciles, there's where we put large differences in the probabilities of above, below, and average air temperature. There's no reflection of this in the water terciles. So there's not really any correlation. One possible reason for the lack of sensitivity is that the total variation in the observed seasonal mean water temperature in the region was only about 2 to 3 degrees. So the cutoffs in the terciles had a difference of less than 1 degree Celsius. Therefore, even when the forecast of air temperature had large shifts to warmer or cooler than normal, the water forecast was still very close to the average climatology. The overall research shows that the model can accurately predict water temperature at the daily timescale, and that it's sensitive to spikes in different meteorological conditions associated with hot and cold spells, but that the model was not sensitive for predicting seasonal pond water temperature using this type of terciles-based seasonal forecasting approach. So the final conclusions that we made from these findings are that the current model would be most informative for farmers at shorter timescales or where there's availability of forecasting of extreme weather events. While the application of the model at the seasonal timescale could be informative, the model itself at this stage in the research could not give any useful information in this region. However, in other regions where there's higher variability, it may prove to be slightly more informative. So moving forward with this, there's certain things that could be improved upon and specific applications where this could prove to be really important. Certain assumptions that were made in order to build the model could be improved upon, specifically in things such as assuming that all of the ponds are shallow enough to be fully mixed instead of simulating the stratification of the water column. This could improve the ability of the model to forecast, especially during heavy rainfall when there's mixing of the water column, or simply when there's heating and the heat that causes stratification of the water column. Among some other assumptions, in order to be able to make this a more generalizable model, it would be important to lessen the amount of assumptions that are made so that farmers would be able to apply this to a higher range of varying types of model or of ponds. The application of this type of tool is important. It could be made widely available through the construction of an easy-to-use web application for forecasting and as an early warning system. Such an app could allow farmers to input their pond's data, such as depth and water flow, and to explore predictions of water temperature at different time scales, and receive warnings for events which meet the criteria. And the development and integration of such tools into different climate information service frameworks can improve farmers' ability to adapt during increased climate variability with more independence. So translating these types of science to this type of science into tools which are understandable and accessible to individuals and communities outside of the field of research is an important step in integrating this type of tool into important frameworks that will help farmers adapt to climate change. Yes, so that is my presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Drew, for addressing an important and very less touch point of aquaculture climate services, where actually we need to focus on to make climate-informed decision support systems more advanced and sustainable. So now we will move to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Shamanul Islam. Shamanul is an adjunct faculty at Institute of Remote Sensing and GIS at Jahangir University, Bangladesh. And he will be speaking on economic evaluation of aquaculture climate information services in Bangladesh. So Shamanul Bhai, over to you.
Yep. My screen can be seen, right?
Yes, please.
Welcome everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this presentation. I am Shamanul Islam, an adjunct faculty at the Institute of Remote Sensing and GIS, Jahangir University. I'll be presenting a paper, Economic Valuation of Climate-Induced Losses to Aquaculture for Evaluating Climate Information Services in Bangladesh. This has been jointly conducted by the International Research Institute for Climate and Society, Earth Institute, Columbia University, World Fish, and CIMMYT. Aquaculture plays a great role in global economy. Globally, the aquatic food production was 264 billion, as reported by a study in 2018. Bangladesh is also a leader in aquaculture production, as it is ranked third globally in 2022. It also helps our economy, as around 25% of agricultural GDP of Bangladesh comes from this sector. And it also employs around 12% of the population of Bangladesh. Yeah, and in addition to this, it also plays a great role in ensuring nutrition and food security, as fish and fish-based food supply accounts for 60% of total daily animal protein intake for the people of Bangladesh. So we also know that both extreme temperature like cold wave and drought and erratic rainfall events can pose a substantial risk to aquaculture operation and thus fish production. And the variation of both temperature and rainfall can be very detrimental for aquatic production and infrastructure. And as there is a global climate prediction of like there will be at least 2 degrees Celsius temperature increase. This will also put a very heavy pressure on freshwater fish production. And along with that, flooding is also very devastating for aquaculture. A single flood event in 2020 alone caused a loss of USD 5 million. So this just the reason why I shared all this information was to just give the background that climate stress events actually they can hamper aquaculture production very much, and there is a need for to develop climate information services for agriculture. But unfortunately, the first thing that we need to have is that if you want to develop climate information services for aquaculture, do we have the loss data for aquaculture due to climate variability of climate extreme? No, we don't have. Unfortunately, Bangladesh doesn't have historical data on aquaculture loss due to climate variability and extreme. Only recently, The aquaculture loss caused by climate variabilities of extremes are being recorded by Department of Fisheries. And this is posing a great hurdle because we don't have an estimate of economic valuation of climate services. I mean, without data, you cannot estimate this, or you cannot make a valuation of climate services. To address this issue, this study explored aquaculture loss in line with climate variabilities as reported in different national daily newspapers since 2011. So we hope that this study will help us in having an improved understanding of the economic benefit of aquaculture services, and we try to make an economic estimate like a time series of loss of aquaculture due to climate variability and extreme. So let's have a look at the way we have conducted this research. So what we did was, first of all, we scrapped newspapers. So what we did was we selected a couple of newspapers and we extracted the data from those newspapers. So what data? The data related to aquaculture loss due to climate variability and climate extreme events. After we, after we got the relevant data or relevant articles, we put those in a leveling framework. So I will talk about that leveling framework later. Yeah. So there is leveling framework. What we did was so if in an article there were multiple loss information was provided, so we needed to associate every loss data with the associated district or date or particular fish type. So we needed to associate every single of those information. So that was done manually in a leveling framework. So after the leveling was done manually, we needed to extract data. So in this step, what we had to do was we had to account for double counting. So what is double counting? So some newspapers were reporting the same damage event multiple times. So we had to address that. So after we addressed these double counting issues, we validated our findings against Department of Fisheries data and using BMD's data, Bangladesh Meteorological Department's data. And also we use Sentinel data for flood mapping. So let's have a look at the beginning of our work. So first, we selected these 4 newspapers: the Daily Star, New Age, Dhaka Tribune, and the Independent. And we use some queries related to climate extreme events or climate variability. And using the queries along with SERP API and Python, so SERP API helps to extract relevant newspaper articles very easily. We got the articles that were that had this kind of information we are looking for, and then we put those data in TXT format. We uploaded those in TechTalk. So TechTalk is the platform where we did this leveling work. So after we completed the leveling, we got CSV data. So this CSV data was like raw data that had all the information. Now, this CSV data has this problem of double counting. So what we did was we made some rule of thumbs, like if there were more than one article on the same date reporting the same event on the same location, we considered only that article which was reporting the least amount of loss. And if there were more than one article within a span of 30 days for a particular location, we considered only the latest article and discarded the others. But there were some other challenges also. In some articles, the monetary loss was not reported. Instead, they were reporting the loss in terms of quantity, like the tons of fish that were lost. Or in some articles, we found that they were reporting hectares of areas that were affected or washed away. So for those articles, well, what we did was, so we estimated loss per ton of fish and estimated loss per hectare. And using these two, we were able to interpolate or get the data of monetary loss for those articles. So we had all the data now for all the districts in Bangladesh. I mean, whichever district were reported in those newspapers, we arranged those and we aggregated those for different districts and for all over Bangladesh. So here you can see the result of our work. So after this aggregation, after this addressing the double counting issue and all other issues, we see that from 2011 to 2020, Satkira actually lost the most amount of fish, and it is estimated to be USD 25.9 million. Yeah, and it's also important to note that our data range from 2011 to 2020, because those 10 years we were able to scrape only those 10 years data, and before that there were no newspaper articles. And after Satkira, Sunamganj and Bagerhat experienced most monetary loss of like USD 19.4 million and USD 19.2 million, very close. And here you also see a time series of 10 years of estimated monetary loss and quantity loss for hatchery, saltwater water fish and shrimp. And in the left figure, you can see that from 2019 to 2020, there was a very sharp increase in monetary loss. It jumped from 15.8 million USD in 2019 to 56.2 million USD in 2020. This loss was relatively small at the beginning of this timeline. And this might be due to the fact that we didn't find many articles at the beginning of the timeline. And maybe this was not of great importance. That's why newspaper didn't report this. And on the right figure, we see similar trend in quantity lost. And improved, yeah. And Bangladesh, so the total loss that Bangladesh faced was around 140 million between 2011 and 20. And we found that in 2019, DOF, Department of Fisheries, reported that there was a loss of 166.7 million. But we found scraping newspapers only 15.8 million USD. So that means that our estimate was around 10% of the total loss that was reported by the government. So if 10% of the damage can be if 10% of the damage can be offset by appropriate climate information services, and if we are estimating only 10% of that real loss, that means that aquaculture CIS could be USD 14 million a year. So this is our conclusion that if we develop climate information services, it will be at least USD 14 million per year for Bangladesh. So the prospect for this research is the same method can be replicated in other countries around the world, because online newspapers are available. So this can be done in other countries. And the challenge that we faced was we were not getting many newspaper articles or data. Even DOF didn't have much data, Department of Fisheries in Bangladesh, and newspapers were not reporting this data. So we need to have some organized way of getting those data and distributing this data. And we also need to undertake more researches so that climate information service for aquaculture can be developed, taking into account different fishes and geographic locations. And we also need a collaboration between Department of Fisheries, BMD, and also other research organizations, so that we can manage climate risks through climate services. And that ends my presentation, and I'm open to any question when the question and answer session will come. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shamanul Bhai, for highlighting the potential economic value of aquaculture climate services. And this study also indicates the urgency of financial inclusion for aquaculture climate services, particularly for small-scale farmers, I would say, because small-scale farmers are especially in need of such services as they are the most climate vulnerable. So in line with small-scale farmers, we will now hear from Dr. Utpal. Dr. Utpal is currently working as a manager for integrated water resource management for climate smart agriculture at Solidaridad Network Asia. And he will be presenting on climate information services for smallholder farmers at Bengal Delta. So Utpal, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see your slides as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Romana. I would thanks to invite me to present my case. I basically did my PhD and postdoc, and recently I finished my postdoc from Wageningen University, and just joined as a new member at Solidarity Network Asia, based in Khulna, Bangladesh. So I would present today basically my key findings that I did from my PhD and postdoc. Good morning, everybody, to my presentations. Okay, cannot translate. Okay. So basically, I will present how to co-produce climate information services in Bangladesh, because I work with smallholder farmers, basically in the southwest Bangladesh, in Khulna. And I would share some of my experience that if we want to develop climate information services for smallholder, because Bangladesh is a delta country and most of our farmers are marginal and smallholders. Only few percentage of farmers are large farmers or medium scale farmers. So therefore, smallholders are the most vulnerable, as Dr. Romana said, and I would say that if we want to develop climate services, we have to go through a co-production process instead of traditional top-down approach for providing climate services. And I would thank my colleagues and supervisors and researchers. Dr. Amjad Babu was also one of the co-author in my PhD articles. So hydroclimatic disaster and risks are very high, especially in the southwest coastal region in Bangladesh. And each year, as you know, that farmers suffer a lot from damages. So you can see in the picture that super cyclone Cedar, it was in 2007. But if you see just below right, Cyclone Amphan hits in 2020. So it's also impact a lot. That means that climate services is still not up to the mark that farmers needed. And if you see the other picture in the left-hand side, so you can see that farmer actually lose a lot of ready crops, which impact a lot in their lives and livelihood in the coastal areas, especially. So what I did in our research program, I tried to answer 4 research questions. Firstly, we try to identify the current practices of the smallholder, how they access information from different sources, and what are the current role of climate information services that provided by different organizations, mainly from the Bangladesh Meteorological Department and some of the social media sources or community-based climate information services. And the second step, I try to answer what are the information need of the smallholder. That means in the second stage, we try to address the farmer needs instead of climate services from the top that we are still facing these challenges in case of Bangladesh. And thirdly, we try to co-develop. That means we try to demonstrate some example experiment with farmers. And then finally, we try to assess whether farmers are willing to pay some sorts of climate services if we go for co-production of climate services. So to answer all these research questions, we basically use transdisciplinary research approach at the field level. So I basically work how participatory approach and processes could lead a successful community-based climate information services. So in my research, we try to engage the service receiver or service users in the main head instead of the service developer in the main key points. So from our research, I would directly go to present some key results. We found that if we develop or co-develop climate information services, we have to follow a transdisciplinary research process that would help to build trust and relationship, which is one of the key tasks and key impacts in the smallholder farmers. Because if climate services is not trusted and if the relationships with local community is not well by the service provider, it would not help to take informed decision making. So participatory interactive process is vital for climate services co-production in a sustainable fashion. Another key result that available forecast shared through weekly interactions. So what we did actually, we tried to demonstrate climate information services through organizing farmer field schools. That is the concept of agriculture, food and agriculture organizations, all right. So we use farmer field schools and we provide weekly interactions and climate services. And we found that it helps to build capacity through weekly training of the farmers at field school. And it's really helped farmers to take significant behavioral changes for taking agricultural decision making at the farm level. Another key findings, we found that many of the author or scientists often said that Bangladesh is a poor country, even farmer often don't have access to mobile phone, but our research shows that farmer lives in a very connected society. And we found that if there is a forecast and good trust on forecast, that peer-to-peer forecast dissemination is very high. And especially dissemination among farmers or among villages is very high during extreme events, say for cyclone. And that helps farmers to take emergency preparation and disaster risk reduction as well, apart from the daily informed activities. So from our research, we also found that it really helps to take climate smart farming decisions that would improve the food productions through better management of agriculture, but also for small scale aquaculture practices and livestock management. Yeah, because our farmer is essentially a very integrated farmers in terms of especially in the southwest coastal region. So they do crop agriculture, aquaculture, and some sorts of livestock together. And we found that during our research process, a few cyclones hits in the region, and with our services, especially we monitor our farmers group, and we found that it's really helped to reduce disaster risks if there is a ongoing community-based climate information services. So one of the key findings that although we don't target it to reduce disaster risks for our daily co-production of climate services, but we found that it also helped in disaster risk reduction. We had some good story and good results that that is also covered by the national media, that for villagers are known as weather specialists, especially in Khulna, in my working area. And I'm happy that during my research process, I tried to take the opportunity to build a farmers weather club that we call farmer-led water apps weather club. Is the same concept that use food and agriculture organization to develop IPM club or farmers club. And it is still running in Khulna. So many of the agriculture department people, they visit often in our club, and it's really functioning well because we keep the agriculture, local agriculture extension department as a key stakeholders to continue this club. So, and I'm happy to share that one of our sub-assistant agriculture officer, who is the lower tier in the DAE, so he received a national award for his good work from Prime Minister last year. So Bangabandhu National Agriculture Award, who is now one of the model agriculture officer to promote climate smart agriculture, organic agriculture practices in Khulna. So during my research process, we published several articles, several research outputs in reputed journals. So if you are interested, please, yeah, I can share you the link, and I think you will find the link in my presentation already shared in the group. So what we did based on my PhD research, we also try to upscale our services in 5 regional districts, mostly in climate vulnerable regions, and we are now just ended this project upscaling part, and now we are thinking that okay, how to upscale further, because it has a huge demand for especially for farmer for smallholder farmers in the Delta. And in this upscaling research period, we found that, okay, it is very important to link between top-down and bottom-up approaches, and how we could bridge this, because our national services is essentially top-down still, but we are the scientists, we are trying to promote bottom-up approaches. So I think there is also need to bridge how we could bridge top-down and bottom-up services in future. So I would like to share a few take-home messages. That is, bridging science and society through transdisciplinary research and innovation is vital for developing climate information services for sectoral uses. And I would say that digital tools and social media platforms have the power to bridge science and society, overcoming geographical differences. Yeah. So so all the research output I also reported in my PhD thesis. It is online available and free access. You can find my thesis. And I would like to thank you to allow me a few minutes, and thank you for your patience to hear me. Yeah.
So wonderful presentation, Dr. Utpal. Thank you for bringing the science and society issue and also the co-production topic on the table. And your presentation actually reminds me of feedback from one of our participants during the training dialogue we conducted jointly with CIMMYT, IRI, and Bangladesh Meteorological Department. And the feedback was like the timely climate information was so helpful for them that they could took early preparation to save resources during a climatic event. And that was a cyclone Bulbul across the southern coastal Bangladesh. And to me, this feedback from our participant and also Dr. Utpal's presentation revealed that the skills needed to respond to climate risks using climate informations, which should be completed by enhancing small-scale farmers' capacity. So capacity building is a very important issue here. So thank you all the presenters for your nice presentation. So I will now open the Q&A session, and let me check whether we have any question to any of our presenters. Yet to receive any question, but I see one compliment from Dr. Syed Muhammad Jainal Abidin. He mentioned, I congratulate Dr. Utpal for presenting an informative paper. So nice to have that compliment. And thank you also, Dr. Utpal. So we will be waiting for the question from the audience, but I can open the floor. I have a few questions actually while watching the presentations. So I would like to start with Amzad. Amzad, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I have a question on to you actually on the digital climate information services. We all are nowadays saying about the digital transformation, everything we like to go digital, okay? But how do you see the scale, sorry, how will you interpret the digital divide of digital climate information services in perspective of your research, you know, as, based on your experience? How will you define this digital divide for climate information services?
Yeah, this is a kind of criticism we are facing on promoting these digital climate services. But what I want to say, Utpal has indicated that even though very few farmers may have smartphones, if they are getting any information, they are passing to their whole society. So that is true. But what I think is there is a need of institutionalizing such responses. For example, I'm trying a model where lead farmers are acting as information providers to others. So the lead farmers can use digital information and pass it to other farmers who doesn't have smartphones. And also technology is also possible that is inclusive. For example, interactive voice response can actually reach non-smartphones. Now, most of the farmers have feature phones, not smartphones, but interactive voice response and SMS can still reach there. It's not about the technology per se, but we need to understand the possibilities. We have to unravel, because there is no other solution to reach millions of farmers that needs climate information at the right time. So that's quite important that we use digital solutions. Thank you, Romana.
Yeah, thank you, Amjad, to highlight the institutional capacity building issue here as well. Yeah, for to minimize this digital divide for climate information services. So yeah, so I'd like to go to Drew now. As I have one question in my mind, as he was presenting on pond water temperature model. So regarding actually the model's applicability, how we can use that model in our services or in our decision support system. So Drew, are you there? Can I?
Yeah, I'm here.
Share my question? Yeah, okay. So considering the model you used and model's ability to accurately predict pond water temperature at daily time scales using commonly available weather data, as you mentioned, how do you think on incorporating the model in a web-based decision support system? Because Dr. Utpal also presented one decision support system that is what is that? Water apps. And we also developed one jointly with CIMI, that is Advisely, which is also providing climate information services, not only for aquatic foods, but also agri-crops as well. And so how do you see to incorporate this model into those decision support systems?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think that models like this have a lot of potential for application in a lot of different types of systems. One of the advantages of this type of model that we built is that it's highly generalizable, meaning you can theoretically apply it to lots of different systems that have different types of things like the size of the pond, its location geographically, whether the pond is shaded, the depth, and so on and so forth. The idea with such a model is that you can build it so that the user itself could input specific parameters around their pond, and it could the model would adjust to be able to give highly tailored climate and weather information at the pond level. This is advantageous because other types of models that are more commonly used, such as one that was explored in a recent paper that by Montez et al. That was exploring a linear regression. So it was looking at the relationship between air temperature and the water temperature. That is really site specific, so you couldn't necessarily use that model and apply it to any region in the country. This type of model, once it's built up enough, you could use it anywhere as long as you allow the user to input the specific pond parameters. So it could be used as an early warning system and at different time scales as a web application, or as was just mentioned, which would be a great idea, as well as even just through text message alerts. Once you input what your pond, the different parameters, then you could get useful climate information at the farm scale. So it could be highly informative and applied across large geographical regions quite easily. So that would be the ultimate goal of such the research.
Yes, okay, thank you, Drew, for your response. Yes, we actually have been exploring for quite long on to resolve this issue, because as you mentioned, the Montes, Carlo Montes paper, Amjad is also here. We started with that, and that was mainly for seasonal climate information services. However, for short-term forecast, like 5 or 7 days forecast, we actually need this type of model to incorporate within the decision support systems, because what we have seen during our previous research, that the data input from the pond level, or for example, we selected some reference ponds in 2 regions, but it's not a continuous process. It's not a sustainable one. We acknowledge that it's very complex. Pond water temperature is affected by different hydroclimatic variables, so it's a very complex procedure. So, but it's good that we have some results that we can move forward with our findings. So thank you, Drew, to focus on this issue.
Yeah.
So we are yet to receive any question from the audience. I think we had been perfect, to express or to present our findings. Anyway, so I have another question to Shamunul Bhai. Shamunul Bhai, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Right.
Okay. So from your presentation, we have seen the aquaculture loss and damage data relevant issues. But how do you see the bridging this data gap and possible ways to generate near real-time open access aquaculture loss and damage data for timely decision making? What's your views on that?
Yeah, thank you for this question. In doing this research, the main problem that I faced was not getting a lot of data. So first, when we looked at Department of Fisheries data, there were not much data. Starting from 2019, we were getting a continuous stream of data for different districts. But before that, data was like very scarce. And the same was found in the newspapers also. So in light of my research, I think several things can be done so that we have this continuous stream of data and also open access data, and maybe also real-time data. So first thing I think we need to do is we need to develop a standardized data collection protocol. Yeah, so this can be very easily. So the protocol that we develop, it should be very easily adaptable by aquaculture farmers, so that we can ensure that this data is collected consistently and also accurately. And the protocol should include like how this information on different climate conditions like water quality and also other relevant factors that impact aquaculture production that are also taken into consideration. And another thing we can do is we can ensure that the collaborative data sharing is also there, because getting data is also a very much challenge for different research organizations, different stakeholders, aquaculture farmers, and even NGOs. So there need to be a collaborative data sharing platform so that everyone can access those data and can gain some valuable insight from it. And in line with getting the data, I think we can also think of using IoT sensors. So if we can install IoT sensors in different aquaculture farms, that will help us to get real-time data on like different things like water temperature, water quality, and other factors. And another thing that possibly we can also think about is using remote sensing, because right now we can also get a free remote sensing data. Like there are some satellites that provide us free remote sensing images, so we can also integrate that into our real-time data collection, so that we have a comprehensive picture of both the climate and also about the water condition. And another thing we can do is we can also apply machine learning algorithms, because applying machine learning algorithms along with historical data and satellite data and IoT data, we can actually have real-time insight, and also we can predict different potential risks that might be incoming. So yeah, so we can also think about how we can also apply machine learning algorithms. And I think it has already been covered by other panelists. This is data literacy. So because if we have data, but the stakeholders don't know how to get insight from that, it doesn't mean much. So we need to also ensure that that data literacy among the aquaculture farmers, decision makers, along with other stakeholders is also there. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shamul Bhai. First of all, for flagging the access to data issues, which we have faced during our data collection process on aquaculture loss and damage. So yeah, we need to have a look on that, how we can get access to data that already is recorded. And also you mentioned about the IoT sensors. Yeah, automated data input systems is really important for generating data and for real-time data particularly, and also GIS, remote sensing, machine learning algorithms. These are a bit technical in perspective of in our country, but there are some studies I have seen that they already started on machine learning algorithm things to generate data from different sources. Yeah, so thank you for bringing all these new issues on the table. So we will be discussing on all these hopefully in our future studies and research. So now I'd like to go to Utpal, Dr. Utpal.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so Utpal Diary there, okay. So considering your extensive working experience on climate information services with small-scale farmers particularly, I'd like to request you to share your views on gender perspective of climate information services. Do you see climate information services as a gender inclusive innovation, or how do you see this from particularly from small scale farmers perspective? Because gender, we know that we have the gender as a cross-cutting issue in all our research projects. So thought you have some observation on this from gender perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Romana. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is a very interesting questions. That yes, I think of course we want to increase gender participation for every sectoral interventions, because we are lagging behind to include women and women participation for equal development partnership or equitable development partnership. So in my research, what I found that in many cases, even in maximum cases, in terms of climate information users, so women are in a very advanced position than men. Yeah. So if you see the agricultural practices and nature of works, so men and women actually play different role in agricultural systems. Yeah. So in our cases, still women are very careful for processing activities, yeah, preparatory work, yeah, for agricultural activities, but male are mainly responsible to field-related activities, although women are also participate in the field from very beginning. And what I found that if we, and there are also climate information needs, there are different contexts between male and female. So in maximum cases, I found that women mostly needed short-term information rather than very longer scales. For example, if a women farmer want to boil their rice for food processing, or if she want to actually take some preparatory work or processing work, she needs 1 to 3 days information, yeah, climate information to take a very smart decision. On the other hand, the male farmers who actually plan for the crops, yeah. So if he want to interested for planning for the upcoming season or upcoming crop, then he need even he need, of course, short-term information, but he also need the more longer scale information. Say for he want to know how much rain or how would be the upcoming season. Yeah. So seasonal scale or even sub-seasonal scale informations also very useful for field-related activities for the male farmers who actually plan, yeah, for the crop or even. So I think there are different roles and responsibility and gender-related demand around the climate services that is still lacking in the design of the ongoing climate services, and also skill of the information. So I think for seasonal and sub-seasonal information services, the skill is still very limited. Yeah. So in most cases, it is also possible to mistrust the information if you give the longer scales. But short-term information is very precise. So if you go for assessing the how was the information services, you will find that women always give the higher score because they work on the very short-term information. Yeah, and it was almost very accurate, and especially during winter, it is more than 80% skills. Yeah, in the services. So I think these are some contextual issues, and of course, women are the most vulnerable. If you see the small scale women farmers, they basically deal with livestock at the farm homestead scale, but also they deal with the homestead agricultural practices, say for vegetable or other crops. Yeah, so they actually need very short terms. They need very precise information on time. So they are the, I would say, daily user of climate services, and also they're also very careful as a mother. They are the mother, of course, and they are really mother care, because they also give very I think information to the male partner that, okay, today the weather pattern would be like this, so you should be careful. Sometimes men are careless in terms of our nature in our society. So if we include more women in service co-design and service process, training and capacity building, I would say that, of course, we have to give preference to the women, because she also take care for their take care to inform other farmer, even in her male partner, to aware about climate services or climate ongoing climate informations. So all this, I think this is all about.
Yes, thank you Utpal, for your reflection on that. And many thanks for highlighting women's engagement in the supplementary activities within the food systems. And it also, I would say, reflect that their restricted involvement in day-to-day operations and also kind of restricted decision making. So yeah, to me, I feel that we need to actually ensure their access to the information and services so that they can strengthen their voice in decision-making role and enhance their climate resilience capacity as well. So I would like to thank you again, all our speakers, and I'd like to conclude by flagging a few key points from our panel members' discussion here. And first one is on the urgency of financial inclusion for climate risk management using climate information services. As I mentioned before, this is because small-scale farmers are especially in need of such type of services, as they are the most vulnerable, which also was mentioned by our panels. We recognize bundled business models for enhancing climate services at scale, and I took it from Amjad's presentation. We also recognize climate services as a gender-inclusive innovation in the light of climate risks to manage, and because digital climate information services can be a powerful tool for women and youth to lead the change on issues that affect them. And therefore, capacity building is also crucial from this perspective. And from Shamul's presentation, potential annual economic value creation of up to $14 million if 10% of the damage can be offset by using aquaculture climate information services. This actually represents climate information services impact on the ground. We also recognize the need of automated data input systems to advance climate information services and make our developed digital systems sustainable. And finally, I would like to urge some policy issues, because when we will be implementing or when we want to enhance this type of services at scale, we need the relevant policy instrument, to scale it at to enhance it at large scale. So I would urge to co-create inclusive policy instruments for food systems to enhance climate information services at scale. And we know that Bangladesh has short-term, mid and long-term plans like 8 5-year plan, 2025, Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan 2030, Perspective Plan 2041, National Adaptation Plan for Bangladesh 2050, and Delta Plan 2100. So we have all these short to long-term plans in our hand, which very precisely have reflected the climate risks for food systems. So we need to harmonize the food system relevant policies with these recent adaptation and prosperity plans. So this was my takeaway from our panel discussions, and I would like to thank our speakers again, and also thank you all who joined with us. And hereby I'm closing the session. Thank you all.
I think, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.